Hello! This is Hooked by Happenstance. I'm Kendra, and it is time for chapter 32 of Yarn Tales. Yarn Tales is my ongoing series here at Hooked by Happenstance, where I read books, I tell you a bit about them, and then I apply silly Kendra rules to my rating for them and add a segment to my reading shawl. Now today's book is one of the biggest surprises for me so far this year as far as books that I enjoyed. Now you may be asking yourself, Kendra, why would you pick a book that you might not like to read? That just doesn't make any sense. But I picked it for two reasons. The first reason is the person who narrated the audiobook, because I did read this book via audiobook, read another book that I had listened to and really enjoyed. And when I enjoy a narrator in an audiobook, first thing I do is I just click on the little link through the audiobook service that I use, and I see if there's anything else available by them. Then I go through and I basically read the synopses of those books, and I throw any of the books that sound interesting to me onto this shelf, this virtual shelf that I keep called a wish list, basically. I just tag it all as wish list and throw it on there. So when I am looking for the next thing to read, I kind of scroll through there and see if anything on there piques my interest. If not, then I go looking further. But I've found that while a narrator can definitely destroy a book for me, like one that I can't stand, can take a book that I would ordinarily like and bring it down an enjoyment level, it really, really is true that a narrator I really enjoy can bring me into a story that I otherwise might not be as engaged in. So I put this on my list for that reason. And when I'd gone through and seen all of the options, this book has a beautiful cover. I just really liked the tone, and the title made me go, huh, I wonder what that's about. So the book that I'm talking about is The Book of Speculation by Erica Swyler. And it, at the beginning when I started listening to it, I was really considering DNFing it. I was really concerned that it was going to be a book that was just not for me. And then it turned around. So this is a story of a man who lives in a house on the ocean, and it deals with at the beginning it deals with his house and a neighbor who has been a longtime family friend, and they start talking about how his mother had died when he was young, and his relationship with his father, who is also now deceased, and his relationship with his little sister, who he did a lot of the raising of because his mother died and his father was not really present in their life, like emotionally. So he gets this book. He is a librarian, and a book shows up addressed to him from a person who had bought it on speculation at a book sale. It was a bookseller. And he had found some names in it that related to our main character. And so he said, you know, he didn't really know what to do with the book. No one was interested in buying it. So he wanted to just mail it to a place he thought it could get a good home. Well, when the guy starts reading the book, he does realize that he recognizes the names. And his mother had been a mermaid. As in, she worked for the circus as a performer who held her breath for long periods of time underwater. And she had also taught him to do that as a child, and he had taught his sister. And then he realizes in the book, fairly early on, that there has been a history of mermaids in his family, which he kind of knew. But there'd also been a history of them dying, in the same way his mother had, on the same date. And that date is rapidly approaching, and he is suddenly terrified for his sister's life. So then the book goes on from there and deals with all the things that happen because of it. But interestingly, this book is a dual story. You're walking every other chapter, one part through modern times and the main character's life and all the things with the sister and their family situation. And then the other chapters are the book, what came out of the Book of Speculation, which is the history of a circus. And so you're hearing this backstory on all of these characters. Now, up front, the thing that made me think that I might not like this book is it happens to deal a decent amount at the beginning with the ocean. If you've been around very long, then you will know that I don't like the ocean much at all. I don't understand people's great love and affection for it. I mean, you do you, but it's not my thing. So I just don't like tend to lean into reading books that glorify that. And at first I was worried that this was going to be a book that had a lot about swimming and a lot about drowning, which also I really just, I can't do that. Yeah, drowning is very scary to me. I fell into a swimming pool when I was 2, and yeah, I just don't like the idea of drowning. I do know how to swim, if anybody's curious, but I don't like being in open water for reasons that I'm sure you can understand. Anyways, that is why I was a little worried, actually, once I started reading the book, this book would not be for me. But then we moved into the circus thing, and I was like, huh. And then it was the first time that kind of a mystery-esque story recently has drawn me in and made me want to know more about, like, what was gonna happen next. Now, they're kind of solving a mystery, but it's not in, like, the whodunit kind of way, and I don't like the whodunit kind of thing. This is more just a slow reveal of family and extended family secrets. And it just kind of rolls out, and it rolls out between both stories at a nice, easy pace. It was pleasant to listen to. I enjoyed my time that I spent in this book. And the thing that I really liked is that I liked both stories. I've read a number of stories lately that have dual narratives, so that go chapter by chapter between kind of like 2 worlds or 2 timelines. And I frequently don't like one of them. I just like check out when it gets to those chapters. But in this case, I was in both stories pretty equally, actually. There were times I was more in one story and then more in the other. But it averaged out that I was interested in what was happening to all of the characters involved, which is just always a treat when a book doesn't waste my time, I guess, that I enjoy all the parts. So that was really nice about this book, and unexpected for a number of reasons. This had never been a book I'd heard about. This had not been a book that was really on my radar. Like I said, I found it for kind of strange reasons. So I gave this book 4 stars. It was really good. The thing that kind of knocked it down a star, I don't know. It wasn't a perfect book. Like, the plot was kind of, there were some parts that were a little to me, but enjoyment-wise, it was very high. So 4 stars. And now, onto my shawl, which I know many of you are interested in. So I am using 4 yarns for this shawl. There's a yarn for books with my kids. There's a yarn for books from my Life's Library subscription service, where I get a new book every 6 weeks. There's a yarn for audiobooks I consume by myself, and a book for physical books and ebooks that I consume by myself. So this is the first audiobook that I read in April, and here you can see I used a different pattern for each of the yarns, and so you can see the difference between like the physical book pattern and the audiobook pattern. And then there's the 4 rows of textured single crochet for my star rating. This shawl, as opposed to my last one, this one is DK. So the first shawl that I made for the reading shawls of the year was a DK weight, and then I did a fingering weight, and now this green one is going to be DK, and green is kind of the overarching color. However, this is the audiobook color, so you will see a lot of it. The color yarn that I used for this is from Cattails Yarn. I purchased it specifically for this project. It is called The Waist, which is part of her Wheel of Time collection, and I just really love this. As I was working with it, this might be my favorite yarn that I've worked with of Cats. Both, I really enjoyed the texture of the yarn. Her merino silk is lovely, and this is just the standard merino nylon in her DK. But the colors were just so fun to work through, and it was just such a pleasant experience that, like I say, so far I think this might be my favorite Cattails yarn. So I'm gonna have to try them all out though, so that I can find out for sure. But at this point, I think that's where I stand. That's everything for the Book of Speculation. Like I say, I really enjoyed my experience with it. If you'd like to catch up on all the other things that I've been reading this year and see whether or not I enjoyed my experience with those, there is a playlist here on the channel of all of the Yarn Tales chapters. There's also a playlist for last year's shawl, which used a different configuration kind of, but if you'd like to see some of those books, they're there. And if you would like to make sure you don't miss out on any of the future videos, subscribe down below, because I don't post on a schedule. I just post when it happens. So to make sure you don't miss out, they will just pop up in your feed if you are subscribed. And I will see you all next time. Bye!